So kind of tell me about your upbringing.
So I was born and raised in Washington, D.C. as well. Went through the D.C. public schools and graduated from F.W. Ballou, Southeast Science and Math Technology. And I wasn't quite ready to go to college, so I decided that I would go into the military. I had heard some good things about it. We had some recruiters come to our school, and I thought I could put my science and math education from high school into a job that fit well in the Army. Really wanted to go into the Air Force, but there was an 18-month wait on women back in that time. Men could go in, but women had to wait. So I decided to go into the Army as a 32 hotel, which was a radio repairman, so that I could get into communications, so that when this IT came out, that I could certainly try to just, squeeze right into that industry.
So a radio repairman.
Yes.
Did you like that?
Well, it started off being tubes. So, when the old tube TVs were out, and we learned that, it was very complicated. But then as soon as we learned the tubes, the wiring and the new technology came out. So we had to stay in school a little longer, which ended up being a whole year in the advanced training for the military.
Okay, okay. And so kind of tell me about the technical things that you did with that job.
So at the time, a lot of our communications were about tubes and light bulbs, more or less. And so traveling around fixing old systems, and then sometimes not even having the supplies in order to fix the systems because we were going into the new technology. So it was really interesting, learning everywhere you went. Having some good sergeants to teach you, how to just survive. Because if we can't get the radio and the communications up, we certainly can't talk to our friends far away.
And how important was it to have that communication?
It is very important. Having your radios up and your communication stations up, and especially in a hard time such as going into any type of other territories, being able to have those communications up and running.
So you were in the military, you said, for 3 years?
4.
4
actually.
years. Why so little time?
Well, I wanted to do another job because of the new technology. I just wanted to go into another job. I wanted to go into a medical health profession, and they wouldn't allow me. So at that particular time, I just decided to get out and hopefully just try in order to go back to school to do health education and try my hand at getting into the health field.
Well, talk to me about some of your experiences that you went through, especially being a woman in the military. You said you had to wait to get in, and then once you got in, kind of talk to me about what it was like to be a female in the military at the time.
In 1983, it was rather hard. Okay. It was a struggle. We weren't respected. They didn't want us there. You could find, I guess, friendship in your platoon or your division because we were all going through the same thing. But even in basic training, I was in a cattle car accident. One of our drivers that were driving some of the soldiers had an accident. And I ended up in the hospital, and they expected us to come back to basic training and to continue on when we had broken bones and all kinds of things. So it was really hard. And then I got stationed at Fort Huachuca, Arizona, where they didn't have many women. Matter of fact, they actually had to make room for us in the barracks. They had to move some men out and have our showers to ourselves in order so that we could be able to be in the actual soldier housing unit, which is called the barracks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they had to make room for us, and it was only 3 of us that came all together at the same time. But before that, they did not have any men in that particular division.
So tell me what kind of personality or features that you have to bring up to be able to endure the things that you were going through, especially if the men were not accepting of you guys being there.
So, pretty much we obeyed what our director said or our sergeant said. But being able to hold your own, especially in the physical realm, you know, it was always about how many push-ups you could do, how fast you could run, can you keep up with the men? And that was very hard because sometimes we can't physically keep up with the men all the time. But being able to meet our requirements as women was a must, and we stood up to that.
And so I know it's already against you, you know, you are a black female and you're in the military. So did race also play a part of that as well in your experience?
It certainly did.
Okay.
It really did. And then going to some place where they were not welcoming of females at the time, Fort Huachuca, I mean, it's just, you know, having 3 women come in and then they're like, well, where do we put them? Where are they supposed to go? And then the men got mad at us because they had to make room for us. So they had, you know, their home was cozy. They had a whole building to themselves. They could walk around and do whatever they wanted to. Now they had women. Now they couldn't go on this side of the building, or they had to put on clothes before they came downstairs now. So it was very hard, challenging. But I think at that particular time, I was able to hold my own. I actually got stationed temporarily in Honduras, which was very trying at that particular time. We were supposed to be there as allies and friends to them, but they didn't treat us as such. And plus, at that particular time, their military, you could go in at 14. So we had really children kind of overseeing us at the particular time in order to try to work with them.
And what age did you go in?
I went in at 17, turned 18 1 month later.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so did you have any other jobs besides the radio job when you were in the military?
Not while in the military. I mean, of course, at that particular time, everyone had to know how to change oil, change a tire on a 5-ton truck. I also drove a long bus to carry soldiers on. So there were different jobs that you had to try to learn, but necessarily that was in your record. No, I only was a radio repairman.
Okay, so if my car breaks down side of the road, I need a flat tire, and you're passing by,
yes,
you'll be able to help me.
I can still do that.
Okay, I love that. I love that. And so you still use these skills today, and you teach other people as well?
Still use the skills today, indeed, yes. And I ride a motorcycle. I can certainly change the battery out. Me and my husband work on cars together.
Okay, That's very fascinating because a lot of women, they don't have any knowledge really when it comes to cars and motorcycles, but not you. So the military really did help you out.
It did help me out, and it was discipline. Even though it was a trying time, I think it helped build my character, and I still have those skills today. It also helped me do a little different than my mother did when raising our children. So I think that was a good thing as well.
So out of your time in the military, just your 4 years, tell me about some of the very happy memories. You told me about some of those challenges. So what are some of the happy times that you can remember?
I think being in the military, we were family because everyone is away from home. So if we had to move, we would, get some beer and some pizza. And I mean, you would have everybody help you move, and you would move within 2 hours. If you had to go from apartment to on-post housing, because sometimes you had to wait for on-post housing, you could get moved within 2 hours because everyone got together. If you were sick, people would help you out because we became family. And we did a lot of things together on the weekends. We celebrated one another's birthdays, and when people had babies, we were the family because we did not have family there. So I think just being able to support one another while you're away from home and becoming family and even keeping in touch with those people even now is just a wonderful thing.
And so you're still in touch with those people now?
Most definitely.
Right,
Most
wonderful.
definitely.
And what would you tell other females just like you that if they want to join the military, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to do their research, see what type of job they would like, something that was long-lasting, even if they wanted to stay in the military for a full career, being able to know that that's the job for you, that you're going to be making an impact. I think that when we live for something and we want to be able to be motivated, we certainly have to understand what we want to do in a long term. So the skills that you learn in the military, whether you get out or you stay in, you want to make sure that they enhance who you are as a person and that you are embedded and committed to that particular job.
So for you, do you see a lot of differences between the military women back then when you were in the military and the military women they have today?
Oh, yes, indeed.
Okay,
The
talk to me.
opportunities are certainly far more open and the door is more open. And I think that they're treated more equally, they're respected, and a lot of them come in educated. So I think that the opportunities within the military and all four branches are much more than they were back in 1983.
And for you, why did you think the military was a good idea?
I just wanted structure at the time. I think that I was not ready. I don't think I would have studied if I had. I would have been one of those that would have been not studying and wasting my parents' money if I had gone to college. And I think this was an opportunity to go in, be able to get a job, be able to work, give a contribution, serve my country, and be able to serve even after I come out in a different way.
So did you meet your husband in the military?
We did not. We actually met when we came back out of the military back to Washington, D.C. This is our second marriage for both of us. And I was working federal government and Department of Health and Human Services as a public health analyst, and he was working as a federal police officer. And friends introduced us, and we have been together ever since.
Ever since. Kind of talk to me. What is it like having a relationship with somebody who was also in the military and can relate to some of the things you've been through?
They certainly can understand. I think also me being in the military and, honestly, him having PTSD, being able to just support him in that and being able to understand that if he has mood swings, it's nothing personal, and just trying to be able to understand what both of us went through, but also being able to apply those skills that we learned then to now, because we are survivors. He's a hunter. We eat everything that he catches, so it really works out.
Perfect, perfect. Is there anything else that you would like to say? Any other experiences that you would like to share that I didn't ask you about?
No, I just think military is a good place for those that are unsure if college is for them. Because I think at this particular time, as we are here in this generation, some of our young people get lost. And I think that with the discipline skills and giving you a job, and you can make money and support your family if that's what you need to do, that it is a good road to take. So talk to those who have been there, talk to the recruiters, do your research, and if it's a good fit, then go for it.
And kind of tell me about your position when you were in the military.
So I started as a military policeman at Fort Lewis, Washington in 1984. Prior to that, of course, I had to go to basic training in Alabama, which was weird.
Okay. Well, talk to me about your upbringing.
Well, I was born and raised in Washington, D.C. Upbringing was a little different. My mother and father divorced when I was 2, so my mother was a stern person. And so growing up in D.C., realizing what I saw and the community itself, I thought that I needed to leave D.C. sooner than later. So that's why I joined the military.
And when did you join?
Actually, I was in the delayed entry program in '83. And that's basically, you join before you, approximately a year before you actually go in.
Were you excited about it?
Absolutely, absolutely. It was a different experience, but a welcoming experience. I actually didn't graduate high school. The district that I was in, they changed their format a year prior, and so they told me 3 months before I was supposed to graduate that I couldn't. And so that kind of nailed it for me that, hey, this is where I'm going. I ended up getting my high school diploma in the military. Thanks to one of my sergeants who was going to school, and he found out about my situation, and he was like, "Oh, we'll get you not your GED, but your high school diploma."
Okay.
And so that was a journey, but a small one.
And talk to me about your experience being a police officer in the military.
it was a different experience for me because I was at one station, at one unit that we supported the division, the infantry division, and I mean it was fun. We had a lot of field time, a lot of away time, but it was educational too. It was really educational. It taught me how to survive
What do you mean by that? Expound on that.
in the cold weather. Instead of putting on some big old coat, you layer your clothes. You learn how to do survival skill stuff like building fires, eating all kinds of weird food or critters, because we did some critter catching too.
Critter catching. Like
Yes.
what? Grasshoppers.
Grasshoppers, snakes, rabbits, anything that basically was out there, and it wasn't a it wasn't a fear factor of, oh, well, this isn't normal. It depends on the person whether that's normal or not. And survival is survival. So, you do what you do to survive. How to treat water to make it palatable, things like that.
And these skills, do you still use some of them today?
Yes, I'm a critter catcher too.
You're what?
A critter catcher.
Critter catcher too.
Yes.
Okay. Do you see different policing from military to regular policing just in civilian society? Talk to me about
Absolutely.
some of the differences about that.
There's certain things military police can do that civilian police cannot do, and there's certain things that and vice versa. Being bound by the Uniform Code of Military Justice, we have to always keep everybody's rights intact, and that's just a must. Because if we don't, like, you don't have immunity in the military like that. If you fail to do something wrong, if you fail to do something right, you're gonna get dealt with yourself. So in the civilian sector, it's a little different, and you have different entities of police officers involved in situations like me being in the District of Columbia. You have multiple agencies of cops in that area, and they don't always work together. Whereas in the MPs, we work together always.
So, kind of talk me, do you remember any specific scenarios where, something crazy happened when you were in service?
Absolutely.
Okay, talk to me about that.
So, one day I was on patrol in my pretty police car, and I got dispatched to go to the motor pool and pick up a truck. Okay, why am I picking up a truck? Because we need you to go to the general's quarters and pick up a skunk in a cage. I'd never been really a skunk person until that day. And so I went there. First off, I asked my supervisor, I said, well, what happened to the animal control officer? Where's the game warden? Where's the canine officer? Why me? So I went there. My supervisor said, okay, I'm going to tell you how to do this. And he tried to instruct me over and over on the radio how to do it. It did not work the way that he said. I got there. I approached the skunk in a cage in the sheeted side, because it's a sheeted side and a mesh side. And I approached the cage. It sprayed. I didn't know that skunks could spray multiple times. Multiple times. I grabbed the cage. It sprayed me again. I put him on the truck. It sprayed me again. By that time, I'm almost on my knees, almost to my knees. And one of my patrol partners came by, and he was probably 100 yards away laughing until he got closer. And then he stopped laughing because he was on his knees. So I drove it to a marsh area and let it out. But I got to the marsh area, stopped the truck, got to the back of the truck, sprayed me again.
So at this
Now-
point, you're sprayed like 4 or 5 times.
Couldn't smell nothing. I could not smell anything, and so I got the skunk out of the cage, got the truck back to the motor pool. They told me to park it way over there. Don't park it near us. Park it way over there. I had to be. I had to all my clothes, equipment had to be basically destroyed. The truck stayed in the motor pool for probably 2 months before they decided we're going to destroy this truck because we can't use it. And meanwhile, my supervisor, you'll be back on the road in about an hour. And realizing that I'm not going to be doing that, he came back to my barracks room and he said, hey, he stopped right in his tracks. Oh, this is worse than I thought. So the mess hall gave me some big old cans of tomato juice, and I had to wash myself in tomato juice for probably 2 or 3 days. Yeah. finally, my first sergeant, because our barracks was a three level barracks, and the bottom floor was the mess hall and the supervisor's offices. He saw me in the hallway and he said, "Hey, I heard you got sprayed by a skunk." I said, "Yes, First Sergeant." "Well, how come you just didn't shoot it?" I said, "Because I would be next door in the stockade playing basketball with those dudes." And he just looked at me and said, "Yeah, that's true, but you wouldn't smell like you do." So that was my story. I had they didn't let me go to any person's homes, any quarters for probably 2 months after that. If there was a club fight, oh, I'm going. If there was a domestic violence situation, I'm going.
So how long, you actually reeked for 2 months?
Just about,
Wow.
yeah.
So nobody really wanted to get near you, huh?
No, only my squad people, and that was about it. Other folks, no. I mean, if you can imagine Pigpen, the like that.
What's going through your mind at this time?
I hate my job. I hate skunks. I hate my supervisors. This was a setup.
Well, like most people, they hate their job sometimes, but you
Yeah.
end up really liking your time in the military, didn't
Oh,
you?
absolutely.
And how long were you serving?
Well, my first stint was for 3 years,
Okay.
and that was with the actual regular Army. And then I decided that I was going to go on the National Guard active duty because I wanted a different job, and they weren't trying to cooperate with that. So I went into the National Guard active duty and enjoyed it. I did a whole bunch of things in the National Guard.
What are some of your most fond memories and good experiences this time?
Working with other agencies, we were in the era of the war on drugs, so I got to work with the Border Patrol. I got to work with U.S. Customs. We did joint operations together for drugs. I got to meet a lot of nice people, some that I'm still friends with today. Probably my best experience was working with Customs in Port Angeles, Washington. That was pretty nice.
What'd you do there?
Basically, drug operations. I mean, we searched ships, we searched planes, we did surveillance. I had to go. One assignment, I had to go on a ferry every day and jot down license plates. So basically, figuring out whether the people were coming back and forth daily, what they were doing, and so forth. So it was a little interesting.
Do you have kids?
2 kids.
2 kids.
A
Okay.
daughter and a son. Daughter and a son. Yeah, my son actually, he went into the Army too, but it wasn't for him, so he got out.
So for you, what kept you in so long? For 2 times around?
It was just fun. It was fun, and at the time, I didn't think of nothing else to do. You know, I was like, this is it. But it got to the point when the Army started changing start changing, and then the discipline wasn't there as much. So you had to deal with young people not wanting to obey orders, even if you're a higher. If you tell them to do something, you got to do it. And it got to the point where I was like, I don't want to smack somebody's child, so I'm gonna get out.
Gotcha. What kind of advice would you offer to people who are looking to join the military?
Pick out a job that's related to the outside. Like, I was a military policeman, I retired as a police officer. Know the branch that you want to go into. I suggest to some people that the Air Force is probably the nicest branch to be in. They're not as fast with getting rank, with promotions, but you live a much comfortable life, much more comfortable. And just figure it out. Get with other people that have been in the military, and they can tell you some things about being with your recruiter that you might not realize. Like, you can actually sign a contract, go in the military doing a specific job. If that job doesn't work out, you can get another job. I have friends that went in. One particular friend that went in, she was doing a clerical job. She got out, stayed out for 6 months, went back in as an X-ray technician, and that was her career.
So with you being a military police and also just being in the military, I know you've probably dealt with a lot of grief maybe in your lifetime about being in the military. So kind of talk to me about, about how remembering your time when it comes to those hard times? How did you deal with it?
A lot of things you forget on purpose. You forget on purpose. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm here telling the story, but I look like I'm perfectly fine, but emotionally, a lot of times I'm a wreck. And so I tell people, deal with the best way you can. Get help if you can. The military, the VA offers a lot of help with emotional issues. But yeah, just do what you can to survive.
So you just
Survive it.
forget on purpose.
Yes, ma'am.
Or you, another guy I was talking to, he says he kind of like locks the memories in the back of his mind and doesn't really bring
Absolutely.
them up.
Absolutely.
But he did say that it's really good to actually get it out and talk about it with someone.
Right. When you have other veterans, like I'm a combat veteran and I have combat veteran friends, we can have conversation all day long. And it may end up crying, a big old cry fest. But those individuals can understand what you went through. And that's the nicety about it. I mean, even the VFW, they have meetings and so forth where they can talk about different issues and try to cope with it with each other.